Hello, all my beautiful shimmering shining hokus, and welcome back to another video. That intro may have seemed very perky, but the rest of the video isn't. I gotta try to at least put some joy in the world. So yeah, as you can probably see from the title, this is gonna be a rough video. One that I'm not even sure if I'm 100% ready to make, so grab your tissues. And yes, I have a whole bunch because I've probably been crying a lot during this. Get some water if you need water. Probably gonna need water. Inhalers if you need them. Anything else you may need, and then buckle up. Because we're going on a wild roller coaster of emotions for this video. Jeez, I don't even really know where to begin. This is a hard conversation to have. Mental health is never easy, especially since there is such angles, such a stigma around it. But that stigma needs to be broken, because if we don't talk about these very serious mental health issues, we're never going to get anywhere in the world. For those of you who may not know, I'm a devout Christian, and basically is believed if you commit suicide, you go right to hell, in my faith. But wow, this is tough. This is a real tough conversation to have. I'm almost talking about just saying, and I really haven't said anything. Come on, bro. You can do this. Mental health is... Okay. Mental health is a topic that really does need to be talked about, so we all can heal. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but I grew up in a culture where talking about mental health, and in particular suicide and suicidal ideation, it's taboo. People are like, oh, I don't want to give anybody ideas. No. If you notice a change in one of your friends, do not be afraid to ask if they are suicidal. You will not put the idea into their head, because chances are, if they are already suicidal, it can make a huge difference to have someone to talk to. And I know that firsthand. For those of you who don't know, I have always been different. I have ADHD and autism, although I'm considered higher functioning, low support, whatever the correct term is for autism nowadays. People have always noticed that I'm different. And in a world where everybody wants to fit in, I have been bullied for being different, even by my own family. This bullying, and quite frankly, dare I call it abuse, and harassment, I've seen it all I've heard it all when it comes to the verbal stuff, and I've been slammed into lockers accidentally. Nobody stops to say they're sorry. Um, I've I've been through an awful lot, from gossip about me to being slammed into lockers to mental/emotional and verbal abuse from my own family. At one point, it felt like there was no safe place for me here. And when I was 18, I almost made an attempt on my life. I almost attempted suicide. But something stopped me. Looking back at that day, based on my own faith, I know what, but I'm not going to share that here for fear of offending others. I guess I can say a little bit about it. I am a devout Christian, and looking back at it, the Lord compelled me to bring up what I was feeling to my now ex-roommates. Well, my one ex-roommate and ex-friend. Who then called my parents, who quickly came down to disarm me. And at the time, I was very upset with her for calling them, because that is the one thing I wanted to avoid. But she's like, I can't help you. It's either them or 911. I'm like, it's still gonna be 911 either way. And yeah, I ended up in CPEP, which is the Comprehensive Psychiatric Emergency Program, I think is the last P. I'm not 100% sure. At St. Joe's here in Syracuse. And I hated my experience there for one reason, and that was the food. Yes, I know hospitals are not known for their food. But at the same time, you can at least give us half decent food, so I'm not eating a butt ton of yogurt because I can't stand any of the other stuff you give me. Okay, that's a story for another day. But yeah, I ended up inpatient at a psych ward in my senior year of high school as an 18-year-old. And the unfortunate circumstance nowadays is that there are a lot of kids as young as 9, possibly even younger, who may not have the vocabulary to explain how they're feeling. And they feel that death is the only way. But I'm living proof that it's not. And it pains my heart to know that there are young kids in psych wards right now. That's not an environment for a child. Even if they have a ped wing, that is not an environment for a child. Children should not have to go through this. They really shouldn't. I have 3 young nieces, and it pains me to even have the thought of them going through what I went through. Kills me. Because it was hard enough for me to go through that at 18. And then again at 19 or 20. And then again and again. I'm still battling it. And I'm now 21. I'm still working towards healing and recovery and getting better. In fact, just today, the day that I'm recording this, I had a plan. I had a plan to overdose on Tylenol. Because I was having a really bad day and I woke up to a really nasty text from my dad. And that nasty text triggered the pain and everything. And initially, I was thinking, oh, I'm just gonna play a long game. I'm not gonna really try to kill myself. But I spiraled down a loophole that I'm not gonna say I was fully anorexic. I was not. And I know that word can be triggering for some, and I am sorry. But for a very short while, I was restricting. I had very strong rules in place for myself. And luckily for me, I should say not unfortunately, but luckily for me, I was, in this case, blessed with impatience. And I was sick of those rules after a few hours, but I was so depressed that I was coming up with those rules. And then after I decided I couldn't play it the long way, I came with a plan to overdose on Tylenol, and it was gonna happen tonight. But then I remembered wanting to make this video. So I could help others who are going through a similar experience to me. I mean, when I was 17, I just turned 17 at this time. I was involved in a near miss car accident where the car stopped 1 foot from my door. That triggered mild, but still it was PTSD, and that's when things really started to go downhill for me mentally. I began suffering from very severe anxiety. I wouldn't get in a car unless I absolutely had to get in a car. And even then, just being in a car would trigger severe anxiety attacks for weeks. And as a 17-year-old girl, I spent most of my summer that year, going into senior year, going back and forth and back and forth. And wondering, would it have been better for me had the accident happened? Because that at least would have been severe injury that I then could have died from. And no 17-year-old should be wondering if it would have been best for them to die. No 17-year-old should be going through that kind of pain. I was traumatized. It took me weeks to even be comfortable in a car again. And my parents were in denial of the full extent that of my suffering. And that really started to trigger depression even more than I was already feeling. And things got worse and worse until I ended up in the psych ward, in an emergency psych ward. And that's once I was, threatening to kill myself, that's when my parents fully realized the extent of what I was going through. That's when my parents realized that there was a lot more going on than they thought. And granted, at the time, I was really not into talking with my family. It's still hard. But at that point, I would just withdraw to my room. But looking back, especially on health class, I was showing all the classic signs. Withdrawing from family, all of that, until one day I finally snapped. And I said, enough's enough. And yeah, I had the knife and I was gonna do it. But the Lord stopped me. And at the time, I didn't fully realize it, but now I do. And then as a 20-year-old, 19 turning 20, I moved away because my parents were a huge source of my issues, and I thought, okay, maybe living with somebody who has been there will make it better, will make it go away. And I'd been in therapy for a while at this point, starting to redirect definitely more towards the depression, the anxiety at this point. But I was going through a series of bad therapists. Like, not necessarily that they're bad for everybody, but they just weren't a good match for me. And yeah, having a therapist that you do not click with does not make things any easier. I mean, I had one therapist at the time of the first incident, and then I had gone through two more. I'd gone through one more therapist and was on my second at this point outpatient therapist. And although at the time I thought maybe he was a good match, he just wasn't. I ended up not clicking with him the way I thought I would. And it spiraled, and I there was one night I was having a lot of issues, and I didn't want to wake the one roommate up. Didn't want to wake him up. So I ended up calling 911 on myself. Then 3 weeks later, I almost tried again. I had just unloaded the dishwasher and had left the paring knife out, because that was going to be my weapon of choice. And I was going to try again on the kitchen floor because I was being considerate, because it would be easier to clean up. But then I really had to pee, and I wanted to die completely comfortably, or as completely comfortably as I could, so I went to the bathroom. And in that moment, the other roommate came out, noticed the knife, asked me, and I broke down and admitted the truth, and back to the hospital I went, this time for 5 days. And then shortly thereafter, I moved back home with my parents into a very chaotic house. As I said, I have 3 young nieces, and that whole part of the family is living with my parents at the moment, due to financial situations. So 9 of us in a 3-bedroom house is a lot. And I'm right now in the most shared space in the house. And that hasn't been easy for me because I get no privacy. I'm lucky some nights if I get to shower before 11 p.m. And yeah, I've really been struggling. Guys, it's not been easy. And just after I moved October, moved back in October, I started a new therapy program, and thank God I finally found a therapist who I click with. Danielle, if you're watching this, you're wonderful. I love you. I love you to pieces. There's a reason you get all 5s in my scales. I've clicked And in a lot of ways, I have progressed. But there are still several days where, like, have I really made that much progress? Because today it sure don't feel like it. But the numbers don't lie. The scales don't lie. I am progressing. I'm getting there. Pardon me. The journey to recovery, the journey towards health and wanting to, it's not easy. You gotta find that motivation, and you have to find it in yourself. Because, and I mean, you have to actively seek it out. Because it's not an easy road. It's not the easy way out. But it's the better way out. Because so many good things can happen to you if you choose life. I know I make it sound simple, just choosing life. But that's a process. And everybody's journey is going to be different. Everybody's journey is going to have its up and downs. I mean, I can't tell you exactly what your journey is going to hold, but I can tell you there are going to be the up and downs. There will be days where you revert right back to being like, death is the only way. But it's not. And if you have a therapist who you click with, a therapist who knows what they're doing, and a therapist, I mean, the most important bond you're going to have in this journey, besides family, is going to be the one you have with your therapist. I can't stress it enough. Therapy, I cannot recommend it enough. It does work, but not all therapists are going to work for you. I learned that the hard way. I have had 2 good matches, and I'm on my 8th therapist at this point. 2 good matches in the entire time I've been in therapy. So there will probably be, if you do decide to go down the therapy route, excuse me, gas bubble. If you do decide to go down the therapy route, you'll hit many bumps along the way. There will be many therapists who aren't necessarily quote unquote bad therapists, they're just a bad match for you. And that's okay. Believe me, 6 of my 8 have not been good matches for me. It is very hard to find somebody who I click with who can help me in all areas of my life. Because I'm just a train wreck of mental issues and developmental disabilities. I'm such a mosh pit that it's really, really hard to find a good match. And that's alright. I know eventually there will come a point when I find the right therapist for me. And there may come a time, when after I graduate, there may come a time after I leave my current program. And I found a good match, a solid match. We click. I'm able to make progress, all that good stuff. But there may come a time where that progress stalls. I don't know what the road ahead has for me. And if I'm being frankly honest, that's scary. But I know for me, at this point, my faith and my therapy are gonna get me through. And I have to trust that. And I have to remember that there are gonna be days like today where I do just want to die. But in those times, and it's very, very hard to do it, but in those times, I have to look ahead, see the light at the end of the tunnel, and realize and remember that there is a way out of this darkness. Whether, in the moment I ask for a phone call from my therapist, or if that's not an option, texting the crisis hotline, or whatever the solution may be in that moment, I need to find it. And it is hard to train my brain to do that. Believe me, I'm still fighting it. I'm still fighting to this day. And if it hadn't been for this video, honestly, I may not be here sitting in front of this camera right now. I may be completely overdosed and unconscious because I overdosed on Tylenol and gave myself acetaminophen poisoning. But then I remembered, that I wanted to reach out to the world. Be like, you're not alone. Those of you who are going through this, you're not alone. You're not alone in this fight. Girlfriend, my dude, however you identify, you're not alone. And I'm proof of that. Because I've been there. I've been in 2 psych wards. And there may be more in my future. There may be more time spent in a psych ward in the future. I don't know. But I know if that time comes, it's for a good reason. And that's so I can talk about it after. I can take time to process what I've been through and make another video about it. Because at the end of the day, it's brutal. And we all need time to process it. And I want y'all who are watching this to know I'm here for you. I get it. It's not easy. But you can get better. And I want you to know that it is possible to get better. It is possible to get rid of the pain without ending your life. It is possible to cope with bullying and being called fat without stopping eating or binge eating and barfing. Whatever your journey and your mental health journey may be right now, it's possible. It's possible to heal from whatever you're going through. Especially if you're at the point that I've been at so many times where all you want is death. Because you think that's the only way your pain will end. It's not the only way. The other way is hard. And you will still have your rough days. But over time, those rough days will become fewer and fewer. They'll never truly go away. But you'll have fewer and fewer of them if you find the right match for you in terms of therapy. It's not hard processing emotions. Or, it's hard sometimes processing emotions. You'll have your rough sessions. But in the end, one rough day isn't the end. You can still make progress. And sometimes I struggle to remember that. But I'm still here telling my story. And it's important to know that, yeah, I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna fall back into this once in a while. But at the end of the day, I've found right now what therapy is working best for me. And I've found a therapist who I've just bonded with and connected with, and I trust. And that trust in therapy is the most important thing. Because if you don't have that trust, you're not going to get better. Because you're not going to want to talk about the hard stuff. And as much as you just want to bury the hard stuff and disassociate from it, I've learned that you need to connect with it, process it, feel it. Because if you just bury it, it's going to lead you right to a psych ward. At least in my case, it has led me a couple of times to a psych ward. So, and that isn't easy. It's hard, not being able to just go outside and go for a walk. Not have your phone to connect with your friends. Be given sometimes very shitty food. But at the end of the day, you can't let your problems define you. It's a lot easier said than done. Believe me, I know. Way easier said than done. But, and yeah, I'm still learning how not to let these issues define me. Yes, they're a part of me. And they'll continue to be there. But they're not all of me. And yes, I struggle to remember that sometimes. But whatever you're going through that may be triggering some of these issues, it doesn't define you. Is it a rough patch in your life? Yes. But it doesn't define your whole life. It's hard being customer service on days like today. Because I have to put on a facade. I have to be cheerful. So, on days like today, I just have to find the joy. Or suck it up until I can get home. But I know at the end of the day, I'm strong enough. I'm strong enough to make it through. And I know, despite how it may feel right now, you are too. You are strong enough. And if you can and you need to, write that as a reminder on your mirror. For some people that works. For me, not necessarily. Mostly because my parents won't let me write on their mirrors. But that is something I need to get in the habit of reminding myself, is that it may be difficult right now, but I can get through it because I'm strong enough. I'm strong enough to get through it. And I really struggle to remember that in the moment. But looking back on my mental health journey, if I wasn't strong enough, I wouldn't be here. If I wasn't strong enough, I wouldn't be where I am today, making a video about it. And it may not be your passion to break down the stigma. It may not be your passion to record for an hour or so talking about this. That may not be your goal, and that's okay. I'm just doing it because I feel that is the reason I'm going through, and I've been through what I am and going through and what I've been through, is because I was meant to be there to be able to help others. That may not be your reason for going through it, and that's okay. You don't have to make a video, you don't have to be that person. But you do have to remember at the end of the day, you're strong enough to get through whatever you're going through. It won't be easy. You'll have your ups, you'll have your downs. But you're strong enough to make progress. And that's what therapy is about. Progress, not perfection. Because as much as I hate to say it, we'll never be perfect. And so we just need to make progress. And I hope that we can do that together. I hope that together, wherever you are in the world, we will be making our own strides. We will be making progress to feeling better, to being the best version of ourselves that we can be. Because that's really what we need to do at the end of the day, is just try to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. We can't be perfect. We won't be. Is it hard to reframe your mind to do that? Yes. It's hard. But get past your perfectionism. You may not get fully past it. You'll still have your days where you will get very, very frustrated. But overall, you'll generally be past the problem. The problem won't fully be in the past. It'll always be there. It'll always want to nag at you. But if you put in the time, if you put in the effort, and for the love of God, kids, especially if you have a parent in this field, in the mental health field, especially if said parent is a DDP therapist, I know it's hard, but talk. Talk to your parents. I wish I had done that, because it might have saved me a lot of trouble if I had gone, especially to my mom, who is a developmental psychologist. It may have saved me so much trouble, but I didn't talk to my parents, and it cost me. It cost me a lot. It may feel like your parents downplay your suffering sometimes. But sometimes all you need is to get it off your chest how you're feeling. Get off your chest your desires to die. And that can make you feel a lot better. And I know most parents, if you tell them, I just need you to listen right now and let me speak, they'll go along with that. They'll listen first and then try to help you. It may not be what you want to hear in the moment. It may not be what you think you need. But you also do know what you need. And sometimes the way parents phrase things doesn't always go down well with the kids. Believe me, I get that, having been the youngest. But I also do want to say that it's okay. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel hurt, distressed, depressed. It's even okay to have those thoughts of death being the only way out. It's not okay to act on those thoughts. But it's normal for some people to feel that way. That death is their only choice. It's a reality, an unfortunate reality, but it's still a reality that many of us face. And in those times, you feel so alone. You feel like you're the only one, but you're not. You're not the only one who's struggling, who's been there. You're not the only person going through a hard time right now, mentally. And it's important. I've found it's important to reach out. Find a community. Because nobody will truly understand what it's like to be you. But we've had similar, not the same, but similar journeys. I will never fully understand what it's like to be you. I may understand what it's like to go through that kind of pain. But I will never understand how deep it is for you. I will never understand how much it affects you, how hard it is for you. Only you will truly understand those things. But it helps to have people understand somewhat of what it's like. It helps to have that kind of community where you may not have gone through the same thing, but at the end of the day, you have similar journeys to one another. It helps to know that there are others out there like you. They're not the same as you, but they're like you. I will never understand what it's like to go through what you've been through. Because I have not been on the same journey as you. But I do understand the pain. And the desire to die. And feeling like death is the only way to escape. And looking back on it, I was rash, I was impulsive. There's no denying it. But I was fortunate enough to find the other way. So I could be here to tell my story of going through a near-death experience and the trauma I faced. And then, my parents downplaying that. And everybody around me at the time didn't fully realize the extent that I went through until I was in the psych ward. Then I finally had somebody give me the proper diagnosis and anxiety medications, and for a while they worked. It wasn't a good med for me at the end of the day, but at the time it was what I needed to get through a day without the nightmares, without the trauma resurfacing and me having anxiety attacks every 20 seconds if I wasn't on the end of a row. If I was in between two people with no clear way of escape, I would panic. If I was surrounded, I would panic. If I didn't feel there was any way out, I would make a way out. When I had my first meltdown that led me to CPEP, I ended up pushing my mom clear across the room because she got too close to me and I got scared. That's how much trauma can affect people sometimes, is if they get into like an enclosed space, then they will push you clear across the room in a rush of adrenaline. They don't mean harm. I want to make it clear that I never meant my mother harm. But in that moment, she was just too close to me, and I was scared. And in that moment, I panicked and I needed an escape route. And the only way I could think of to escape was to push her across the room. I didn't mean to attack her, but it was the trauma. And did it hurt my mom? Yes. But after I got out, I hugged her. I said I was sorry. And that was the end of it. Like, she goes, yes, it hurt me. But your explanation of why you did it is fair. Like, I admit, I got too close to you in that moment, and you were already upset. You were already in distress. And you didn't need it. You felt trapped, and so you pushed. You tried to find a way. In that moment, literally, that's what was going through my head was, I need a way out. I was scared. I was panicky. And all my brain wanted was a way out. And so, on instinct, I made a way out. It wasn't the best way, but it was the way my panicked, traumatized mind saw fit. And the point of me mentioning this, the point of me going down this little rabbit hole and telling this story is because when you're that upset, you can't control yourself sometimes. It just won't happen. And that's also okay. You just gotta realize that what you did was wrong. And if you hurt anybody, you apologize to them after. After you've had time to cool off, to process what you're going through, feel what you're feeling. And sometimes the best way is to go off on your own and process and be alone. That works for me, but it may not work for you. I really should wrap this up, shouldn't I? So anyway, at the end of the day, you need to know you are strong enough. You can get through whatever it is you're going through. And the biggest thing that I want to drive home at the end of this is it's okay. And it's going to be okay. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. And that goes up to suicidal ideation. But you cannot act on it. You have to talk about it. It may be difficult, but you have to do it. You have to talk about it. Because otherwise it's never going to get better. As I was saying, oh man, where was I? As I was saying, you are strong enough. You can get through it. You need to talk about it. And it's okay to be upset. It's okay to cry. Whether you're male, female, non binary, whoever you are, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be hurt. And I want you to know that. But you also need to remember you're strong enough to get through it. And whatever you may be going through. It's not going to be an easy journey. Whether it be an eating disorder or some other kind of mental health issue that you're trying to recover from. Suicidal ideation, any of that, it's not going to be easy. But it's worth it. It will never be easy or simple. And nobody will ever understand what it's like to be you. You are the only you, and you are the only one who truly knows what it's like to be you. But you need to tap into that inner strength. You need to talk about it to whoever you may trust. Whether it be a guidance counselor, or a parent, or a friend, you need to talk about it. And you also, if you are really, really struggling, try to get into therapy. It's expensive, I know. Time consuming. But the time and the effort, and yes, the money that you put into it, if you find the right person, it's so worth it. Because having that bond and that trust with someone who may have gone through something similar, may not have, but at the end of the day, is trained in what works for you, can possibly prescribe meds, it's worth it. So worth it at the end of the day to put in the effort now to get better, because it will overall get better. And to feel joy after a hard time is truly special. There's nothing like it. So, as I wrap up the video, remember, you are strong enough. You can do it. It's hard. And that's normal. It's also very normal to feel how you're feeling. Just don't act on it. And I know I make it sound easier than it is. But it's worth it to find that strength and that courage to ask for help. And it's never shameful to ask for help. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a tough one. A real tough video to make. I hope this has helped some of you realize that it's okay and natural to go through hard emotions and hard times. And hopefully it's also helped you to realize that you are strong enough. You may not feel it, but you are strong enough. And you can get through it. I'm not going to say what YouTubers traditionally say, and, you know, I hope you enjoyed the video. No. Because this is not a video I made for pleasure. This is not a video I made for your enjoyment. This is a video I made to educate. And to help those out there going through a similar journey realize that you're not alone. I know not every day is going to be good, but I really hope this video helped. And thank you so much again for watching. Bye.